Hello, ladies and gentlemen of District 31 in Anchorage, Alaska. My name is Daniel DiNardo. I'm standing for election to the House of Representatives for the state of Alaska. In this YouTube discussion, I would like to present some very, very, very important issues to you that are never talked about in the newspaper, never talked about on radio or TV, and never talked about by your so-called elected representatives. This subject matter involves the Soviet Union's long-term strategy plan to take over the state of Alaska and make it a part of the landmass integrity of the Soviet Union. Mr. Gorbachev, when he received the Nobel Peace Prize, was very emphatic and openly stated and directed the attention of the audience to a very important point. He says the Soviet jurisdiction extends from the Atlantic to the Urals, then from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. And then he says it actually extends all the way to Vancouver, BC, not to include Canada, but the Arc of Alaska. And they maintained that they never did sell Alaska, that they only leased Alaska, and they want it back because the lease is up. Now, as outrageous as that seems, for 10 years there were secret negotiations starting in approximately 1978 and ending in about 1990 with the signed agreement. James Baker III, George Bush's old family law partner, law representative, and close personal and family friend, also one of the representatives on the Bush-Gore election litigation in the U.S. Supreme Court, which obviously you know that Mr. George Bush Jr. won that case, fraudulently and criminally. Gore wasn't above reproach in that case either. It's your typical communist-controlled corporate political parties that have destroyed the foundation and principles of the Republic of the United States, to the point now, as I mentioned in prior YouTube presentation, does not exist. As of 1937, the attorneys ruled through Louis D. Brandeis that the United States doesn't exist because there's no general federal common law. It's just strictly a international commercial contractual relationship between these 50 entities known as international corporations. And you can verify that for yourself with the extent of incorporationism all around us. Even the municipality, isn't it a municipal corporation? Of course it's a municipal corporation. Now, in discussing this Soviet plan, I have a few maps that I was able to, and informational maps that I was able to obtain from the State Department by suing them over this so-called treaty that was signed in 1990. Shevardnadze, known as Stalin II, and then later at the false breakup of the Soviet Union, he was the later president of Georgia, but he signed it on behalf of the Soviet Union, and James Baker III on behalf of the United States. And one of the things that they did sign is a secret, very secret side agreement that was never made known to Congress, but I have a copy of it, where they stated if neither the Soviet Duma or the U.S. Congress ratified this treaty, that it still would be enforced, and that was their secret side agreement. And I have tried to make that published. I've sent copies of it to all of the Senate and the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., to show them that the amount of fraud and deceit under George Bush Sr., of course continued under Jr., was enough to be called treason. And it's definitely, even to the present time, threatened the military, economic, and the moral security of what is called the United States, but particularly Alaska, because of our geographical location to the Soviet Union. I want to show you this map here. I hope you can still hear my voice. This was obtained from the State Department, and you can see down here that there are, in fact it's over here, you can see that there are some numbers, and that's the State Department. They had to declassify this information. 73% of Alaska is under joint U.S.-Soviet management through environmental agreements signed in the 60s and 70s. And the Maritime Boundary Treaty, you can see here, right here, there's a plan for a nuclear submarine base on the Aleutian Chain, because they had part of the Aleutian Chain was transferred back to the Soviet Union. And the point of that is that they're taking over the Bering Straits for all access to the Arctic Ocean. They're claiming the Arctic Ocean, due to the extent of their outer continental shelf, which is absolute international fraud. But that's what you have to expect from them, because they're nothing but communist criminals, the same ones that run and organize the bar, what we call the Bar Association, the attorneys, all these so-called judges that are nothing but Soviet British chancellors operating under a foreign body of law, even in the state courts, but they're also in the federal. But that just gives you an idea. You see the line on the map where this boundary dispute was supposedly located. And I want to point out to you something here. This little triangle is Soviet jurisdiction, and it's on the Alaskan side of the line. It's really amazing. It's not a big area, but it's what it is. The Soviet Union is very active in the Arctic with their nuclear submarines, and that's a nuclear submarine staging area. And the U.S. military is very compliant with it. The U.S. military is basically a foreign expeditionary force. They don't represent the people of the United States or of Alaska. They don't represent anybody but themselves. They're compelled to go to war because this is the largest debtor nation, and the other nations of the world who owned all the U.S. bonds force us into these nightmarish wars overseas. So that's what's happening. And I'm going to show you another map quickly, and I'm going to come back to this subject. This is a map of an international peace park, and you can see the Kamchatka Peninsula, and you can see on Alaska. And what they're doing, they're expanding the amount of area within the state of Alaska. It's under joint U.S.-Soviet control, but the Soviet Union is looking to manage this international peace park both on their property and in the state of Alaska. And this isn't being resisted by Congress. Sarah Palin, Stevens, Murkowski, Young, none of the representatives are resisting this because they're all card-carrying Communist Party members because they belong to the corporate Communist Party system. And that's exactly what's happening. Alaska is in desperate need of somebody to speak out for its interest who has studied these issues, and nobody has, but Daniel DiNardo. I'm going to end this discussion at this point, and I'm going to continue with another presentation discussion on these very important issues in just moments. So do click into YouTube again and look for Daniel DiNardo with a space between Daniel and DiNardo on YouTube, Google. Thank you very much.